There is a person in your life who treated you like you were everything, and then, without warning, made you feel like you were nothing. And just when you had finally started to breathe again, they came back. Not because they missed you, not because they changed, but because of something far more calculated than you realize. Something that psychologists have a specific name for. And once you understand what it is, you will never be confused by this behavior again. Most videos about narcissists will tell you they come back because of ego, because they want supply, because they are manipulative. All of that is true, but it is surface level. It does not explain the timing. It does not explain why they always seem to return at the exact moment you have moved on. And it does not explain why, even knowing all of this, it still works. To understand this properly, you need to understand a concept called intermittent reinforcement, and why the human brain responds to it more powerfully than it responds to consistent love, consistent kindness, or consistent care. In the 1950s, behavioral psychologist B.F. Skinner conducted a series of experiments on pigeons. He found that when he rewarded pigeons every single time they pressed a lever, they pressed it consistently and stopped almost immediately when the reward was removed. But when he rewarded them randomly, sometimes on the third press, sometimes on the 20th, something remarkable happened. The pigeons became obsessed. They pressed the lever compulsively, thousands of times, even when no reward came for hours. Skinner called this a variable ratio reinforcement schedule, and it is the most powerful behavioral conditioning mechanism ever identified. It is the same mechanism behind slot machines, behind gambling addiction, and behind every relationship with a narcissist you have ever witnessed or experienced. The narcissist, consciously or not, has been pulling this lever with you from the very beginning. Reason 1, the narcissistic supply depletion cycle. Narcissists require what clinical psychologist Sam Vaknin, himself a diagnosed narcissist, describes as narcissistic supply. This is attention, admiration, emotional reaction, and a sense of power over another person. It is not simply ego. It functions neurologically more like a drug. Studies on pathological narcissism, including research published in the journal Social Psychological and Personality Science in 2018, found that narcissists show elevated dopamine activity in response to admiration and social dominance, similar to the dopamine response observed in substance dependency. When a narcissist discards someone, they typically have a replacement supply already in place. But supply has a shelf life. New partners stop being impressed, new relationships develop friction, the novelty fades, and the moment their current supply begins to feel insufficient, their mind automatically searches the archive and finds you. You were a reliable source. You responded, you cared, you reacted. To the narcissistic brain, that history is not sentimental. It is inventory. Reason 2, the ego wants you left by healing. Here is the part nobody talks about. When you stopped chasing, when you started healing, when photos appeared showing you laughing, thriving, building a life, something happened in the narcissist that they cannot fully control. Clinical psychologists call it narcissistic injury. It is the experience of perceived rejection or humiliation that punctures the narcissist's grandiose self-image. A 2019 study published in Personality and Individual Differences found that narcissists respond to rejection not with sadness, but with rage, and crucially with obsessive ruminative thinking about the source of the rejection. Your healing is not celebrated by them. It is experienced as an attack. The fact that you are fine without them is, to the narcissistic mind, impossible to process. They return not because they love you, but because your recovery has made them feel small, and they need to re-establish dominance to restore their internal equilibrium. This is why the return always includes a performance, the grand gesture, the tearful apology, the claim that you were the one, that they have changed, that nobody else compares. Every word of it is designed, consciously or not, to pull you back into the orbit where they feel powerful again. Reason 3, the hoovering technique and why it is so specifically effective. The term hoovering, named after the vacuum cleaner brand, was coined by psychologists studying cluster B personality disorders to describe the process by which narcissists suck former partners back into relationships. What makes hoovering uniquely effective is that it is precisely timed and precisely targeted. Research on narcissistic relationship patterns, summarized in a 2021 review in the journal Current Opinion in Psychology, found that narcissists demonstrate a remarkable ability to identify and exploit the emotional state of former partners. They return when you are vulnerable. After a loss, a setback, a moment of loneliness, they seem to sense it. In some cases, they are actively monitoring through mutual friends, social media, or second accounts. In other cases, the timing is genuinely intuitive, a product of years of reading and exploiting your emotional signals. The message they send is engineered for you specifically. It references your private language, your inside references, the version of them you fell in love with, because they studied you, and they remember exactly which key fits your lock. Reason 4, trauma bonding has rewired your response. This is the most important and the most misunderstood reason the return works. It is not weakness, it is not stupidity, it is neurochemistry. Dr. Patrick Carnes, who coined the term trauma bonding in his research on coercive control, describes it as a strong emotional attachment between an abuse victim and their abuser, formed as a result of a cycle of abuse punctuated by intermittent positive reinforcement. Brain imaging studies on individuals in traumatically bonded relationships show elevated activity in the same neural pathways associated with addiction. Specifically the nucleus accumbens, the brain's reward center, and the amygdala, the brain's threat detection system. When a narcissist returns, your brain does not simply process it as an event. It processes it as relief. The threat is gone. The anxiety lifts. The reward system activates. You feel, against all logic, something that resembles happiness, because your nervous system has been conditioned to associate their presence with the end of pain, even though it was their presence that caused the pain in the first place. This is not a character flaw. This is what prolonged psychological abuse does to a brain, and understanding it is the first step to interrupting it. If this pattern is familiar to you, there is something important to understand. The return is not a sign of love, it is a sign of need. Their need, not yours. The apology is not remorse, it is a strategy. And the version of them that shows up at your door is not the person who hurt you finally understanding. It is a performance calibrated specifically to dismantle the boundaries you have worked to build. The research on narcissistic relationship cycling, published across multiple longitudinal studies, consistently shows one thing. Each return followed by a re-engagement leads to a more intense devaluation phase than the one before. The pattern does not improve, it escalates. The most psychologically protective decision you can make is to understand the mechanism fully. Because you cannot fight something you do not understand. And the moment you see the return for what it is, a supply-seeking, ego-driven, neurochemically calculated move, it loses the power it once had. Not because the feeling disappears immediately, but because the story you tell yourself about it changes, and that changes everything. If you have experienced this pattern, drop a comment. How many times did they come back? And if you want to understand the specific psychological mechanism that keeps people trapped in these cycles even when they know better, the next video covers trauma bonding in detail. The science is more disturbing than most people realize. Subscribe, because this channel goes where most psychology content does not.